Hello coders, this is a quick review of understanding what is a main term when you code from your CPT professional manual and from your HCPCS manual. So the first thing I want you to understand is when you are coding from different manuals, you have to pay attention to the details of coding from either your CPT manual or your ICD-10 manual. Remember, ICD-10 means International Classification of the Diseases. So it is a problem that brings the patient to the doctor. So the problem is a disease or a diagnosis. And a CPT code is for the P, which is the procedural terminology, meaning what did the doctor do for the patient? If you look at this scenario, you can read the scenario and evaluate as to what are you coding for, okay? And always read the question too. What are they asking you for? For example, in the scenario, it says, what CPT code would you use to report a biopsy of the bladder by means of a scope inserted through the urethra and into the bladder? Now, do you see it says what CPT code? So you're not looking for diagnosis. You're looking only for the procedure, which is what did the doctor do for the patient? And whenever they do something, and whenever you're coding for that, you always use the P manual, which is your CPT manual. So remember, the name of the procedure here is biopsy of the bladder. And usually when you look for biopsy of the bladder, you will end up looking for cystoscopy or cystourethropy, which is basically the same thing. But that is the name of the procedure that is used to get into the bladder through the urethra and get a biopsy of the bladder. So remember, you are looking for biopsy of the bladder. In this case, your main term will be, what did the doctor do? Biopsy. Okay? Eventually, it will take you to whatever direction, but your main term should always be the question, what did the doctor do for the patient? And when it is a do, you have to select the CPT manual. You have to select the correct main term, which is a word that is a verb, which is telling you what the doctor did. So if I ask you, what did the doctor do in this scenario? What is the first word or one word that you will give me, which will give me something to look for in the index of your CPT manual? Question, waiting for an answer, biopsy. If that's what you said, you are right. So how am I going to find this in my index and in my tabular list in my CPT coding manual? So the first thing we always do is the index. We go to the index. In your manual, any one of them, in this scenario, what book are you going to choose? Yes, your CPT, because we're coding for the do. We're coding for the procedure. We're coding for something that is a procedure, is an action word, right? So we are going to look for biopsy in our index as our main term. Remember, main term is always usually one word, okay? One word. You're not going to look for biopsy of the bladder. If I ask you a question, what is the main term for this procedure, right? What is the main term for this procedure? What is your going to answer be? It is going to be one word, action word, which is your biopsy. So that will help me get somewhere. Not always is that going to be true, but it's a start, and you will have to learn to be patient in figuring out the main term in the index. After a few practices, you will see it will become so much more easier for you because you know what to do now. So the first word, main term, is your biopsy. And when you go to your main term in the index, remember the index of CPT coding manual is at the end of the book. So please open your manual, go to the index. All the blue big words in the index are your main terms, okay? So you will look for main term biopsy. Under that, you will see bladder. So bladder is not a main term anymore, okay? We will call that bladder as your subterm. The subterm will give you this code range to find, okay? And you're not coding. You will never code from your index because you always have to go to your tabular section in the same manual to find the correct code and read its description. So you will go to the tabular and you will figure out which of these codes are the correct codes that matches the exact definition, exact terms for biopsy of the bladder. This code is the correct code. If you match the description, you will see that that's what it's giving us. So let's pick up your CPT manual, go to your index, that is the end of the book, go according to ABCD, look for biopsy, and you can see we have the main term biopsy right here. Okay, and it is the index of our book. We're looking for the main term. We will go to our, okay, so we need to look for biopsy of the bladder, remember? So our subterm is going to be bladder. So under the main term, you will go to the next line under it and go according to ABCD and look for bladder. You can see the bladder says 52354, and it also says cystourethropy. Okay, so we have to follow all of these codes in order to confirm all of them in the tabular. Make sure everything matches the keyword, and we will move from there onwards. So let's go to the tabular, and remember the tabular is the first half of the book. You will always keep your eyes on top of the page to see that it is the surgery section and it is the urinary system, and we are looking for this code range, right? So luckily we have this code right here, cystourethropy with biopsy. And you can look up the rest of the codes. None of them matches the exact keywords we're looking for, but this code is the only one that matches. And there is actually a little confusion of biopsy of the bladder. But remember, you as a coder have to know that you cannot do a biopsy of the bladder without doing the scopy. Okay, so it always comes with cystourethropy. Cysto means bladder, urethro means urethra, and scopy means to look into. And while you do that, with the help of cystourethropy, you will do the biopsy. So there are things that you need to know. You need to know the anatomy. You need to know the medical terms in order to confirm the correct code in your CPT manual. One more thing I would really want you to remember when you're doing your assignments or reading a coding question is to make sure you read the question in detail, okay? Sometimes the question is actually giving you some of the information that you need to know. For example, this question says, use your CPT coding manual. So remember, use your CPT coding manual. And it says relating to CPT surgery section integumentary system. So it's literally telling you where you will find your answer. Okay, so you cannot be in any other section unless you are in surgery integumentary system when you confirm your codes in the tabular section. So, and the question says, using the CPT coding book, identify the main term for the following scenario. So remember, you're not looking for the code. You are looking for the main term only. Main term only. List the main term used to locate the information in the alphabetic index. Okay, it doesn't mean that you just assume any word and find the answer. You have to make sure it is the correct word from this scenario. It says diagnostic, okay, so don't get confused on diagnostic. Diagnostic means there's a lab service going on to confirm a problem, and that is a process, that is a procedure, that is an action word. So we see what is the main term going to be in this scenario. What did the doctor do, right? That is what you have to find in the index. So always make sure you read the question before you answer and you find the code and write the code instantly thinking, oh, I have the right answer, right? So you don't. But also make sure that you do the whole process here. You do go to the index, find the main term, subterm, go to the tabular, confirm your answer. Because if you don't confirm the answer with the main term, that means that main term was not the right code. It has to be the right code if you're giving me the right main term. It also should lead me to the right code in the tabular list. Because if it's not going there, that means the main term is not correct. Let's do another example. How would you code an excision of a ruptured appendix with generalized peritonitis? Okay, What did the doctor do? One word. Can you answer? Yes, excision. That is your main term. After you find the main term, you will find any other word from these 4 words under the main term to start going through a process of confirming and finding the correct code range for this whole scenario. Sometimes you will find all of these words. Sometimes you will only find the location, appendix, right? So then you will follow the ruptured or whatever comes next. But sometimes you will not find the whole diagnosis given. You just have to come as close possible to the exact wordings as possible. Okay, review this question. Tell me what is your main term. Pause the video and come back in a few seconds. All right, if you found cholecystectomy, perfect. All right, we could also look for laparoscopic surgery too, but cholecystectomy is I know, and I will try to do it first. I also want you to remember you will always, most of the time, will start with the last word at the end. If there are 3-4 words in the procedure, start with the last word because usually the last word is the one that is the actual procedure name. Another example, a cesarean delivery including a postpartum care. Pause, think of the main term. Okay, it could be cesarean, it could be delivery. Different things have different main terms. You just have to practice and learn. Let's do another example. So you see the question says, Andrea fell down while skateboarding and broke her acetabulum. Her physician performed a closed manipulation with skeletal traction. How would you code this procedure? Remember, how will you code this procedure? They're not asking you for ICD-10. They're only asking you for a procedure which is a CPT code. What is your main term? Please pause and come back. So what did the doctor do? Traction, right? Traction. Also closed manipulation. So now you have 2 things going on. You don't know if there's 1 code for it or 2 codes for it. So you will look for both of them and figure out the tabular list. The tabular list will tell you if it's a bundled code. Bundled meaning both of these procedures are bundled together, or if they are separate from each other. So make sure you keep that in mind and look accordingly. One more example, and do you see how the scenarios are always presented to you in a different way? Keep that in mind, okay? I am reading for the question, what are they asking me? It says procedure. That's all I have to code for, right? So this 2-year-old male was taken to the operating room for a plastic repair of an incomplete cleft lip. What are you going to code for? Plastic repair or incomplete cleft lip? Remember, you're doing the procedure coding, so you have to think of doing. What did the doctor do? Plastic repair. So your main term is going to be repair, right? And under that, you will find plastic or incomplete cleft lip. It's just a process that you have to search and find and learn from it. Okay, so always pay attention. What is the question asking you? What am I supposed to be coding here? Instead of jumping on the answer, always make sure, what is my question? What are the indications or helpful things that I can grasp to make sure I am coding for the right thing and nothing more? Hope that helps. Keep in touch and let me know if you need more videos to help you.